You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts now.
All right, Black and White Sports supporters, we're going to talk about Jim Harbaugh, Michigan a little bit here. I've covered how I feel about that situation in depth. Previous videos, one from yesterday, one from the other day, one from 3 or 4 days before that. You can go back, look at them, listen to how I feel about this whole situation, which I think is an utter and complete joke. But there's been a couple of real updates here involving Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan scandal. We're going to talk about that, and more specifically, Alex Smith, that's right, former 49ers quarterback. Jim Harbaugh came in. I'm a Niners fan. Jim Harbaugh came in, and he saved Alex Smith's career. Make no mistake about it. And Alex Smith knows that. Alex Smith was 19-31 when Harbaugh showed up. Harbaugh completely reworked Alex Smith's game, figured out how to use him, laid out a blueprint. Andy Reid took that and sort of expanded and grew the base that Jim Harbaugh developed for Alex Smith. And I said, it's one of the very few times in NFL history you've seen a complete bust, and Alex Smith was one of the biggest busts in the history of the NFL, and then became a really good winning NFL quarterback for about 7 or 8 years after that. And you just don't see that much. Another person you could draw that line to lately, Geno Smith. I mean, interesting. Kind of makes you wonder about Sam Darnold and what Kyle Shanahan's going to be able to do with him. Now, I've made a video the other day where I talked about the Bears and Jim Harbaugh. I still don't know why the Broncos didn't necessarily hire him. I got the notion and the understanding that Harbaugh actually turned down the Broncos. Okay, we cover the Broncos extensively, and the thought there, or the feeling from Bronco land, was that they offered DeMeco Ryans the job. He turned it down. They offered Jim Harbaugh the job. He turned it down. Sean Payton ultimately took it. Now, I don't know how that makes you feel. Sean Payton was the third choice, but that's the rumor anyway, okay? The heavy rumor. I always say heavy when there's a hell of a lot of potential truth there. Let's put it that way. So let's get to this, because Alex Smith made some comments today about Jim Harbaugh in the NFL. Before we jump straight into that, let's look at where we're at with the Harbaugh and Michigan thing very quickly. Very quickly. The ongoing investigation in the Michigan football program reached a new stage on Thursday. The AP reported that NCAA investigators arrived at Michigan's campus to conduct interviews. Although initial reports had indicated that the interviews with members of the Michigan football coaching staff had already taken place, local members of the media refuted those reports. Now, this lady right here is with the Detroit News. Multiple sources have told me the NCAA has not yet interviewed any of Michigan's football staff. The coaches attended practice Wednesday, are on the road recruiting. Michigan does not have a game on Saturday. So we would scroll down here. All right, the Detroit News first reported the NCAA began searching electronics of Michigan football staff members with a particular focus on gaining insight into the scope of the alleged illegal scouting scheme. Now, this got interesting. At this point, Yahoo Sports is reporting that no evidence has emerged that would implicate head coach Jim Harbaugh participated or had knowledge of the in-person scouting scheme led by Stallions. There is a growing belief that regardless of what the NCAA investigation uncovers, no potential punishment would impact the current season, at least from the NCAA itself, although it has confirmed that the Big Ten can issue its own punishment independent of the NCAA. It's unlikely that the conference would take any drastic steps before the NCAA completes its investigation. So it looks like that's not going to impact this season. Okay, so, and this is Yahoo right here from the report they were just talking about, and they're still looking into it, all right? Now, we're going to go over here because Alex Smith was on with Pat McAfee today. He was asked about Harbaugh potentially going to the NFL. I made a video the other day where I talked about Harbaugh and the Bears may end up becoming a thing here, okay? Now, Albert Breer threw some water on the idea, okay, and there's potential reason for that, and I'm going to give you my opinion on it after all of this, right? Here we go.
A lot of stuff.
These are high crimes, Pat.
Huge.
Buying cheeseburgers, stealing signals.
Huge deal,
Yeah.
huge deal. But it is
Yep.
something that could potentially send Harbaugh back to the NFL, maybe. You know, he's been kind of snooping around. Do you see that as a probability? And what do you think he would be like back in the NFL in this modern 2023 NFL?
I have to think, like, listen, I haven't heard this out of his mouth, but just knowing Jim and how competitive he is and how close he got to a Super Bowl at the NFL level, and then to kind of see it, you know, obviously passing by, I got to think that isn't sitting right in his gut. And if the right situation comes up with the right ownership and the right quarterback, I think he's jumping at it. To be honest.
Which team you think? Because we got a Packers fan
home.
here, the Bears, obviously. I mean, there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to want Jim Harbaugh.
The Chargers.
Yep.
You know, like,
Oh, boy.
I got to think, like, again, if the right situation arises, like, I would not be surprised if Jim tries to make one more run at it. Because, I got to think it's eating at him. You know?
Okay, so Alex Smith just came right out and said it. He said if the right situation presents itself, he believes that Harbaugh is leaving and going back to the NFL. So, we've talked about the Bears. He played for the Bears. Honestly, I thought the Colts thing was a good possibility last year because, you know, he has a connection with that organization. Now, Alex brings up the Chargers. The problem there is Dean Spanos. Is the Spanos going to be willing to spend on a coach? Because if you were willing to spend on a coach, Sean Payton wanted that job very badly. So I'm not sure exactly. Would Harbaugh be enough to make the Spanoses actually spend some money? Who the hell actually knows? So now Albert Breer of the MMQB raised an issue about Harbaugh and the Bears. Now, I'm going to tell you how I feel about this in a second. Apparently, Harbaugh and Kevin Warren have somewhat of a frosty relationship. The same Warren who is now president of the Bears. The two worked together when the former was commissioner of Big Ten from 2019 to 2022. Everybody knows Harbaugh has always had an issue with authority figures. It was true during his time as quarterback under Mike Ditka. It was true during his contentious tenure in San Francisco with general manager Trent Baalke, and it's been true throughout his time with the Wolverines. Look, I'm a Niners fan. Jed York chose poorly. He chose Trent Baalke. He should have absolutely given Harbaugh an extension, a raise, and fired Trent Baalke. I mean, just plain and simple. Trent Baalke turned into a joke. His drafting turned into a joke. And the fan base and the players adored Harbaugh, okay? I mean, he is still loved in San Francisco by the fans. And he put together one hell of a team out there, all right? You know one thing, if Harbaugh comes to the Bears, the defensive and offensive lines are going to become good. Plain and simple. They're going to become good. It's not at all difficult to imagine him having issues with Warren. Unless encouraged by ownership, it doesn't seem like a direction the Bears president would want to go. Okay, well, let's say that's the case. Then I fire Warren, okay? I fire Kevin Warren. That's all there is to it. Goodbye. You're gone. All right? Because if I got my choice to get Jim Harbaugh as a coach, and by the way, Bears fans, you would love him. He is exactly the kind of coach that the Bears need and that big name coach that the Bears need. Boy, it's an interesting team brought up in that little Alex Smith snippet, the Packers. That would be another place with his attitude. I mean, Lambeau Field, the frozen tundra, that whole thing my God, the Packers fans would love Jim Harbaugh. And look, I'm always honest. I'm a fan of the Wolverines. I'm a fan of the 49ers. I've had a lot of Jim Harbaugh. About 12 years now. 13 years of Harbaugh. And he is absolutely in my top maybe 2 favorite coaches of all time. I love the attitude, and I said, if he's your coach, you love him, you want to fight to the death for him. But the opposing fan bases hate Harbaugh, and you come to love that if he is your coach. You come to love it. You're like, oh, they hate our coach, and we thrive on that. We love it. Some people just hate Harbaugh. It's kind of crazy. He's a really good man, and he's got a good base, good moral and value set, and all this kind of thing. And, after some of the whatever's been going on in Chicago with their former defensive coordinator and all of that kind of stuff, Harbaugh is the kind of solid coach you bring in. You give him a 6-year contract. You let him, in very large part, buy the groceries. In other words, pick the players. And you're going to play good. You're going to have good offensive line, defensive line. You're going to be able to run the ball. You're going to be tough. And it's exactly the play style Chicago fans would love. They truly would. And I got to think that might be where this is headed, I got to think. And if Kevin Warren really has a problem with that, I would not want to set up another Trent Baalke situation. I get rid of Kevin Warren. Goodbye. Him versus Harbaugh, please. Bye. He was a joke as the Big Ten commissioner. Get him out of there. So tell me what you think. Alex Smith's telling you if the right thing comes along, Jim Harbaugh's going back to the NFL. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.